Louay Safi, if I could start with you. What do you make, first of all, of the comments by the Saudi Prince there, Turki Al Faisal?
Well, I agree with it. I think the opposition has not received enough support, definitely not to the level that the Syrian regime is receiving from its friends. So we hope that we see more forthcoming support, particularly in terms of high-quality weapons, meaning weapons that can deter aircrafts, the fighter jets, and some advanced weapons to destroy tanks. Unless we change the balance on the ground, I think the regime is not going to start changing the dynamics, will not budge to the demands that should stop killing the Syrian people.
Well, let me bring up a criticism that's been made of the Syrian opposition, which I'm sure you've heard, which is mainly twofold. First of all, one of the reasons given for the lack of any appetite for more outside intervention is the state of the opposition in Syria, specifically the fact that many of them are made up of these what are considered very unsavory jihadist extremist groups, and the reluctance to provide support to those groups. That's one element. How is your group dealing with that?
Well, I think we definitely have some small groups who tend to have narrow horizons, and they have fanatical religious views. So we acknowledge that. But I think this fact has been exaggerated. They are a fringe group within the opposition. And there are some people...
But they have proven to be very effective on the battlefield.
Well, I mean, effective is another question. But that doesn't change the fact that within the mainstream opposition, there are very small fragments. And they cannot decide the direction of the revolution or the conflict.
Another criticism that's been made is of your group specifically, and what they say is that it is it remains disjointed. It is not united at the moment, and many people say it is ineffective, and that is part of the reluctance for other groups to get behind you more forcefully. What do you say to that?
We see these as excuses. The reality is the opposition has united itself greatly. Most of the political forces and revolutionary forces are united through the National Coalition and through the Joint Command inside the country in terms of military forces. So we see these as a smokescreen for those who have not, for one reason or the other, have not decided to give enough support to change the balance on the ground.
It's a legitimate question, isn't it? What happens next, Louay Safi?
Well, I mean, let us take the point made by Ilyas that we need to have a political solution. Now, to have a political solution, the Assad regime must be willing to negotiate transition from this dictatorial rule into a democratic or semblance of democratic rule. But the Assad is not refusing to do that. He has not recognized the opposition, called them traitors and terrorists. And so the only way for him to change his mind is to change the balance on the ground. Our problem is, and that I think goes to both comments, our problem is that by prolonging this conflict, we are putting or setting the ground for the very fear that they are pointing out. More extremism, more chaos. The only way to end that is to support the revolutionary forces. And by the way, these are united today under one central command. General Salim Idris is now in charge. He is working very hard. I mean, the forces have been united greatly, but part of uniting them further is to give them support. I mean, we are put in this difficult situation that first deal with the extremists, get united, but we're not going to do anything until you do that. And when we do that, then we don't need the external board. So our problem is that we have been able to make all these ground, to cover all this ground by depending on ourselves. And the opposition has created a miracle, because a year ago, I mean, this regime is one of the strongest regimes in the Middle East. And this regime has been brought to its knees. Of course, it's trying to provide a show of confidence and control, but I can tell you, gradually the power of that regime is being taken away.
But as far as your group, what assurances can you give to the Syrian people, to Syria's silent majority who are deeply worried right now about the destruction of the country and are still at this point undecided about whether to cast their lot with the regime or risk an unknown future with the rebels? And I go back to this point again, that what could happen post-Assad is very uncertain right now.
Well, what is certain is that the Assad is destroying the country and killing thousands of people every month. And that is certain. So those who are fearing that some problems will come afterward, they can see in front of their eyes massacres and most vicious killing, and they keep talking about the future and the fear of the future, which is quite amazing. Now, this is what I can tell you as a thing to assure the Syrian people. We have united the political oppositions. 80% of them are united under one umbrella organization. Yes, talking about fault lines, yes, I mean, these umbrella organizations united all the spectrum, political spectrum, which is a good thing. You know, why should you think that everybody should be under one political ideology? Only the liberals or only the Islamists should be united under one umbrella. We have united everybody. For the task of transition, everybody has committed to a democratic, free Syria where you have multi-party system, you have elections, and you have civil rights. So the commitment is there. The military forces have been united under one command. Every province has its own council, and all of them follow one central command. So what more can we do? I think everybody who is repeating the same arguments are trying to give excuses to the main powers who don't want really to tip the balance toward the oppositions, fearing the unknown. But I think they should fear what they are watching today. Massacres taking place under our watching eyes. Millions of Arabs and Muslims are seeing that, and I think we have to change the dynamics.
We've heard very little lately from Lakhdar Brahimi, the UN Arab League Special Envoy to Syria. Do you expect any new diplomatic initiatives from him for resolving this in the near future?
I don't think so. I think it's clear from the last statement made by Lakhdar Brahimi that he was displeased by the speech of Bashar Assad. He felt even betrayed because Assad sort of closed all possibilities for him to even negotiate a national coalition government. But you know, it seems to me that at this point the opposition is not asking for boots on the ground, and really the only way for us to move ahead toward a better situation and more democratic government is to take al-Assad out of the picture. I think the one who is obsessed with al-Assad is the Russians and the Iranians, because they both know that he is a dictator, and without him his regime would fall. The whole regime is standing on him, and he has complete control over it. But the situation cannot continue like that. I mean, there's no return. The only thing that will happen is more killing, and I think everybody will have to take responsibility for allowing that to happen. We have a solution. The solution is we are willing to negotiate with people within the regime itself, away from the Assad and his security chiefs. Let us have a transitional government. We are willing to talk to the Alawites. The opposition is not heading a sectarian war, and despite all the provocations by the regime, still the opposition has not taken any sectarian posture, did not attack villages or cities where there is a majority Alawites. We have Alawites in our opposition organizations. So I think the only way for us to solve the problem is to take away the ability of Assad to manipulate the situation, and I agree that requires some sort of international agreement. I think the Americans must take more serious the issue of settling the conflict politically. We feel that laid back and entertaining fears that I think they exaggerated are not real.
Louay Safi, thanks very much for your time. And thank you for joining us. Remember, Al Jazeera has extensive coverage of what's going on in Syria, not just on this program, but on the Hour news bulletins and online at aljazeera.com. I'm Hazem Seeker. Thanks for watching. The latest news is up next. Stay with us.